As a new work week rolls around, us busy worker rats scurry off to our not-so-respected positions of labor grunts, pushing the system ahead with very little knowledge about what the system is even for or the purpose that it holds. And if you personally find yourself watching this video after a long work day, or even worse, on your lunch break in the break room, then don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, opinions down below, and subscribe to see my daily videos right here on the channel. And a huge shout out to the handful of you guys checking out those links down below in the description. Those are always some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. Now, let's begin this shit show.
Digital ID is the Trojan horse to get rid of cash, and here is how it's going to play out. You see, we're being sold this story that digital ID is going to solve the immigrant crisis, because if you don't have a digital ID, you can't work and therefore can't earn money. So if immigrants know that they can't earn money, there's no point coming here, so they won't come. But here's the thing. We already have a system in place that stops people supposedly working illegally. It's called the national insurance number. And for you to work legally in the UK, you have to give your employer your national insurance number so that they can pay national insurance on your behalf. But here's the thing. You can still work illegally. Me having a national insurance number, I can still work illegally. All I have to do is find somebody that's willing to pay me cash in hand. And that's what the illegal immigrants are doing. They're getting jobs that are cash in hand. And having a digital ID is not going to solve the problem of people getting paid cash in hand. So what's going to happen is this. The government are going to roll out this digital ID, and they're going to see that it doesn't solve the immigrant crisis, because immigrants are still going to be able to come and work illegally for cash in hand. And then the government's going to turn around and say, oh, well, you know what? Actually, the digital ID didn't solve anything. Cash is the problem. These illegal immigrants are getting paid cash in hand. And then the people will go, well, why didn't you see that before? And they'll say, well, we kind of did. But the problem is we didn't have a means of getting rid of cash before. But now we've got this digital ID. What we can do with it now is we can link your bank account to the digital ID. And your digital ID will become a means of you being paid and making payment. It's the mark of the beast. Without this mark, you will not be able to buy or sell. And the government will say, now we've got the digital ID, we'll just make cash irrelevant. And that will stop the illegal immigrants coming and working. Problem solved. Cash gone. This is how it's going to play out. And once cash is gone, it's over, people. It's over. They will control absolutely everything about you through your digital ID. Now, call me a conspiracy theorist, whatever. Think about it. And if you can't see it, well, go get your 50th COVID booster, because the previous 49 didn't work. Maybe this one will work. Take care, people, and don't take them off
The
the
illusion
beast.
of freedom is genuinely starting to break for the overall population, not just the younger folks, the Gen Z millennials who have been overall online for the majority of their lives thus far, but even some of the older folks. Pretty much every generation is starting to the system's starting to break. You know, the fragile mentality is starting to crack, being that you cannot really trust all these governments, being with these new digital IDs getting implemented in some of these other parts of the world, and as well as freedoms being challenged, and the population having to fight for their rights. Really, at the end of the day, rights just being an illusion of freedom, which has never really existed. It's just kind of, the whole thing at play. And, we all read history books. It feels like it's so long ago. Not to realize we're living in history. It's not really that long ago. There's still people living who experience some of the stuff that happened, some of the history books that we are reading. And we're going to be those people living in those times in the next 150 years, if like humanity's civilization even lasts that long. God bless us all. But either way, what are your guys' thoughts, opinions regarding the society you live in? Feel free to let me know which country you're from, how old you are, which generation you're from, and how it affects you personally, seeing, the overall lackluster economy that seems to come into fruition today, and how the overall divide within, the population, the generations, the wealth, only seems to be ever growing and getting stronger. So I love to read all your guys' thoughts, opinions, so feel free to leave them down below in the comments.
If you've ever been scrolling on your phone for hours and struggling to put down the device, you may be one of a growing number of people now grappling with an internet addiction. Researchers are warning that teenagers are particularly vulnerable, leading to a slippery slope for their mental health.
With a single click, you can have a world of knowledge at your fingertips. But it's easy to get carried away spending time online.
I really don't like getting on them because you just keep scrolling and lose track of time.
Aussie teens are some of the most digitally connected in the world, spending an average of 20 hours a week staring at a screen.
How much time do you think you spend on your phone every day?
Honestly, all up, probably about 4.5 hours.
10 hours, I think.
3 hours and 9 minutes.
But when does it become too much?
I think when you can't pull yourself away from it to do important things.
You can have subtle signs like just even eye strain through to headaches. And then if it gets a bit more serious, I guess sleep problems are a common sign.
Around a third of young people are addicted to the internet through gaming, gambling, shopping or social media. Excessive exposure has been linked to an increase in mental health issues.
Because it just changes their behaviour, so emotional regulation goes through the roof if they have too much more.
Given what we think this is a significant public health issue, it's sort of an area that might need a rapid research response.
QIMR Berghofer is hoping to replicate a study in Europe here in Australia, using artificial intelligence to monitor teens' time online and determine when it becomes problematic.
Not only enable these adolescents to self-detect when it's become a problem, but then also to self-manage.
Tiani Reid for 10.
Now, the average screen time for a young adult is as if they're scrolling through TikTok as if it's a part-time job. But the average person that's doing this is not getting paid for it. And now it seems to be a issue, and it seems to be a rise of concern why people are spending so much of their time online. But we don't really question why this might be, being that, it's really the only form of escapism that, one, people can still afford, but two, holds any sort of value because it's just an easy dopamine rush, and there is justifiably better than going out and taking a hit or a drink of something, but it still is, probably overall, we haven't really had it around long enough to really know the studies about this yet, but it can't be mentally good for the long run of how we function, But at the end of the day, I think it's really just, it should be kind of obvious why everybody is just going to these online video games, they're doing these VR worlds, they're even doing, AI girlfriends, AI boyfriends. People are straight up resorting to revolving their entire life around being online. And so, we wonder why this is the case, but really it's the real world is so daunting. It's scary. Good luck finding a positive news headline. If you do find one, it's going to be, like a needle in a haystack. So people are trying to find the best ways to live, and unfortunately their day-to-day is just not really for them. They don't have much fulfillment in the work they do. They can't afford to build a family, so there's no real natural joy, and everybody's so alone. We are all in our own worlds, which also I think being so much online is also making that worse. So it's definitely a hearsay, a back and forth contradiction. But what do you guys think? Do you guys find yourself being steadily online a lot more than you probably would like to be? Do you guys think it's more of an addiction that we don't really see yet, but is eventually going to be a huge problem down the line? Because you can definitely see how some of these young kids act when you take their phones away. That can be very troubling. But anyway, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions, so feel free to let me know down below in the comments.
Gen Z is not having it with the 40-hour work week. And a content creator named Mick recently explained why, and what many young people are choosing to do instead. She says that Gen Zers aren't lazy because they want to work less than 40 hours a week. They've simply discovered that they can often make more money working for themselves in less time. And many would much rather start their own business than work for a company. A Gallup study found that 40% of workers work a standard 40-hour week, but a full 18% work a grueling 60 hours or more. And as Mick put it, it's not that Gen Z is lazy, it's just that they aren't stupid. They're very money savvy because they've always had to be, and they're very good at finding ways to work for themselves. So why work 40 to 60 hours for someone else when they can make the same amount of money working for themselves in 30? Unsurprisingly, an estimated 40% of Gen Zs who do have jobs want to leave them within the next 2 years. And about a third said they'd even be willing to quit without having a new job lined up. And as you might guess, some of the factors fueling these trends are low pay, burnout, and the feeling that the workplace is detrimental to our mental health. We Gen Xers and Millennials have felt this way for decades, of course, but most of us have yet to do anything about it, probably because when we were young, there was still some hope that the economy would go our way if we played our cards right. For Gen Z, on the other hand, the mask is off, and it seems to be motivating them to try to make change. That ambition to buck the status quo doesn't make them lazy. They're just trying to fix this delusional system we have of working until you simply can't work anymore.
Now, this question, especially me being a 25-year-old Gen Z who questionably also hates working, this might ruffle some feathers and stir the pot, but what is the purpose of working hard? I mean, I understand, like, mentally, especially as a human being, as a young man, as a sole individual, as an American citizen, I understand the implement of what working hard can do and the causes and the effects and the positive gains of it, not just for yourself, but for society and the group as a whole, of the whole overall community. But in modern day, the average individual, male, female, whichever age group, even whichever tax bracket, they feel as if they're not really getting much fulfillment, much, compensation, whether that's just like emotional wise or even like physical wise. Like the pay is not really keeping up with the amount of work they feel like they're giving. And then, as humans, we become so accustomed with our just regular, comfortable lifestyle that if you are living above and beyond compared to the average person, you don't really enjoy it still. So as humans, we're stuck in this constant cycle of just depression, this like doomer mentality and always wanting more, which I think is just kind of the way we're built, just the way our DNA is designed, and definitely is a flaw of us. But what do you think? Do you think this is just the common reality? No matter how much you make, you'll always be stuck and to suffer in your own head? Or do you think it's just people who are the majority of the population just can never really see themselves getting out of this shitty position that they've been in their whole life, were born in, maybe they got themselves into, or maybe they just found themselves in? So feel free to let me know. Guys, that's going to wrap up this video discussing the depressing society that we currently live in and how everybody is struggling to get through it and go day to day. But somehow, some way, one way or another, we're finding ourselves here and there and pretty much everywhere, but still with not enough to get by. So what do you guys feel like for all this? Do you guys have any different thoughts, opinions discussed in anything we talked about here today? Feel free to let me know down below in the comments, as well as a huge shout out to all you guys who continue to support my channel over here. Check out my daily videos and hop up on my live stream and hang out with me for a bit. And a huge extra shout out to the handful of you guys checking out those links down below in the description. Those are always some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. I hope you enjoyed this video. That's kind of it for me for this one. But anyway, hope to see you in the next one. So bye.